Beef converts 10% of what it eats into protein. 90% is waste, heat, methane, manure, bone. This plant converts sunlight directly into complete protein. No animal, no land, no waste. It grows in a bucket of water on your balcony. The FAO identified it as a critical protein source for a food-insecure world. You have been calling it pond scum your entire life. Not because it failed as food, because it succeeded without needing anything the food industry could sell you. Subscribe and hit the bell. The next 15 minutes will change how you look at every pond you pass. In Thailand, they call it kai nam, water eggs, not a nickname, a description. The protein content is so high that rural communities treat it the way they treat eggs. They scoop it from the surface of rice paddies in the morning. They rinse it, they fold it into omelets, stir it into soups, and press it into cakes that children eat on the way to school. Nobody in Thailand thinks this is unusual. They have been eating it for centuries. The nation Thailand reported it as a traditional superfood, rich in protein and vitamin content, consumed in northern Thai communities for generations without interruption. In Laos and Myanmar, the same plant is collected from irrigation channels and served alongside rice as a daily protein source. In Cambodia, it is added to fish curries. In parts of southern China, it was documented as food in texts dating back over 1,000 years. Not as a supplement, not as a novelty, as a staple. The same way wheat is a staple in America and rice is a staple in Japan. 500 million people across Southeast Asia eat this plant regularly. Their children grow normally. Their protein intake meets WHO guidelines. Their cost for that protein is zero. They walk to the nearest body of still water and scoop it off the surface with their hands. This is duckweed, the family Lemnicaceae, the world's smallest flowering plant. A green disc smaller than a pencil eraser floating on any body of still water on Earth. It has no stem, no visible root structure in most species, no flower you would recognize without a magnifying glass. It looks like nothing. It looks like a mistake. It looks like the thing you clean off the surface of a neglected pond and throw in the compost bin. It is the most protein-efficient plant ever measured by modern science. Dry it, weigh it, test it. The crude protein content of duckweed ranges from 26 to 45% of dry weight, depending on species and growing conditions. A 2022 review, published in Food Research International, confirmed this range. Beef is 26% protein by dry weight. Chicken is 27%. Soybeans are 36 to 40%. Duckweed matches or exceeds all three. A 2023 study published in the journal Foods confirmed that duckweed protein levels are comparable to pork at 27.7%, beef at 40.5%, and eggs at 52.7% on a dry weight basis. And it contains all 9 essential amino acids: lysine, threonine, leucine, isoleucine, valine, phenylalanine, histidine, all 9. In ratios that the human body absorbs without supplementation, a 1980 study by Rusoff documented the complete amino acid profile of multiple duckweed species. The 2019 study by Kaplan at Ben-Gurion University confirmed that Wolffia globosa duckweed offers all 9 essential amino acids, along with dietary fibers, polyphenols, iron, zinc, and vitamin B12. But the protein is not the part that makes food scientists stop reading and start measuring. In 2020, researchers at Ben-Gurion, University of the Negev in Israel, published a peer-reviewed study confirming that a specific duckweed strain called Monkai Wolffia globosa contains bioavailable vitamin B12. The study was published in the journal Clinical Nutrition. Vitamin B12 is the nutrient that makes plant-based diets medically incomplete. It is found almost exclusively in animal products: meat, dairy, eggs. Vegans supplement it synthetically. Vegetarians worry about it constantly. Nutritionists cite it as the primary reason a fully plant-based diet requires pharmaceutical intervention to remain safe. Duckweed produces it naturally in a floating green disc the size of a sesame seed, without a single animal involved in the process. The same research team conducted clinical trials comparing Mankai duckweed protein to other protein sources. The results demonstrated equivalent amino acid bioavailability to animal protein controls, not inferior, not approximately similar. Equivalent, the study measured actual postprandial amino acid levels in human blood after consumption. The duckweed performed identically to beef and egg protein in delivering amino acids to human tissue. The study was published. It is available in the public archive. The meat industry did not comment. The supplement industry did not comment. The combined $1.5 trillion global meat market looked at a plant that produces complete protein with bioavailable B12 on the surface of a bucket of water and decided that silence was the appropriate response. Now here are the numbers that the livestock industry needs you to never calculate. 1 acre of managed duckweed surface produces 10 to 30 tons of dry matter per year containing up to 43% crude protein. That translates to approximately 4,300 to 12,900 pounds of protein per acre per year under optimal conditions. The most conservative estimates place duckweed protein yield at approximately 1,500 pounds per acre per year under moderate management. 1 acre of pasture produces approximately 75 pounds of beef protein in a year. That single acre requires cleared land, fenced boundaries, planted feed, irrigation systems, veterinary infrastructure, slaughter facilities, refrigerated transport. The full life cycle water cost of producing 1 pound of beef protein is approximately 1,800 gallons. Duckweed requires no feed. It photosynthesizes. It requires no irrigation beyond existing water. It grows on water. It requires no veterinary care. It is a plant. It requires no slaughter. Nothing dies. It requires no refrigerated transport. It can be dried in direct sun and stored at room temperature for months without degradation. 20 times more protein per acre, at minimum from water, not land. And duckweed does something that beef production can never do. It cleans the water it grows on. Duckweed absorbs nitrogen and phosphorus from water as it grows. These are the 2 compounds that cause algal blooms, dead zones, and aquatic ecosystem collapse when they accumulate from agricultural runoff. A 2022 study published in the journal Water confirmed that duckweed treatment systems achieved highly efficient removal of phosphorus, reducing total phosphorus concentrations below regulatory limits within 6 days. A separate study on duckweed pond systems documented 93% removal of total phosphorus and 91% removal of total nitrogen from wastewater, the same nitrogen and phosphorus that beef cattle operations flush into rivers and lakes as contamination, are the exact compounds that duckweed consumes as food. The plant eats pollution for breakfast and converts it into protein for yours. Researchers tested duckweed on hog farm wastewater, water so contaminated with nitrogen and phosphorus that it cannot legally be released into waterways without expensive treatment. The plant removed the majority of contaminants within days. The water emerged cleaner than many municipal supplies, and the duckweed that cleaned it was edible. One organism, producing protein, purifying water, requiring no land, requiring no input beyond sunlight and contaminated water that would otherwise require expensive industrial treatment. Now the growth rate, the detail that makes every comparison to conventional agriculture irrelevant. Duckweed is the fastest growing flowering plant on Earth. The Salk Institute confirmed this in their research program on Wolfia species. Under optimal conditions, Wolfia globosa can complete its entire life cycle, from birth to reproduction, in as little as 30 hours. Population doubling time ranges from 24 to 48 hours depending on species, temperature, and nutrient availability. You harvest half your duckweed on Monday. By Wednesday, it has replaced itself. You harvest again. By Friday, it is back. The supply does not deplete. It regenerates faster than you can consume it. No replanting. No seed purchase, no growing season, no fallow period, no waiting for harvest. The harvest is continuous, 365 days per year. In any climate where water does not freeze solid, and even in cold climates, it grows indoors under artificial light without difficulty. NASA understood this decades ago. In the 1980s and 90s, NASA investigated duckweed as part of the Controlled Ecological Life Support System Program, CELSS. The question driving the research was direct. If astronauts are sealed inside a spacecraft for years during interplanetary travel, how do you feed them without carrying thousands of pounds of food? You grow something that produces maximum nutrition from minimum input in minimum space in a completely closed loop. Duckweed was among the top candidates. It produces more edible protein per square meter per day than any other plant tested in the program. It grows under artificial light. It grows in recycled water. It grows in the same water used for other life support functions. The waste becomes the input. The input becomes the food becomes the waste. The loop closes completely. NASA published the research. It remains available in the NASA Technical Reports Server Public Archive. It has been there for decades. The FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, has published documentation on duckweed production, recognizing its potential for both livestock feed and direct human nutrition in food-insecure regions. Their publication on productive use of livestock wastes specifically addresses duckweed pond systems as a mechanism for converting waste into protein. So here's the question that should keep you awake tonight. If duckweed produces 20 times more protein per acre than beef, if it contains all 9 essential amino acids in bioavailable ratios, if it contains vitamin B12, the one nutrient that has kept plant-based diets medically dependent on supplements, if it cleans contaminated water while growing, if it doubles every 24 to 48 hours, if NASA selected it for space missions, if the FAO documented it for food security, if 500 million people across Southeast Asia already eat it as a daily staple food, why does the average American not know its name? The global beef market was valued at $555 billion in 2024. The global meat market approaches $1.5 trillion. The global animal feed industry exceeds $500 billion. The fertilizer industry supporting feed crop production exceeds $200 billion. The total economic infrastructure built around the process of converting grain into animal protein exceeds $2 trillion annually. Duckweed does not need grain. It does not need feed mills. It does not need slaughterhouses. It does not need refrigerated trucks. It does not need veterinarians. It does not need antibiotics. It does not need growth hormones. It does not need fencing. It does not need cleared rainforests. It does not need a single link in the $2 trillion supply chain. Every dollar spent on duckweed protein is a dollar not spent on every link in that chain. Every family that grows protein on their balcony is a family that does not purchase it from the industrial meat system. The industry does not attack duckweed. It does not lobby against it. It does not fund studies discrediting it. It does something far more effective. It ignores it. Because ignoring is cheaper than opposing. Ignoring leaves no fingerprints. Ignoring creates no controversy. Ignoring requires no legal team, no headlines, no congressional hearings, no advertising campaigns against it. Just silence around a plant that solves the protein crisis for free. And then there is the name, the American English name. Pond scum, not duckweed, not water lens, not quinine. Pond scum, a name that carries disgust, that signals contamination, that triggers a cleaning response rather than an eating response. You cannot consider consuming something your language has associated with filth. You cannot view as food what your culture has named after waste. Thailand did not name it pond scum, they named it water eggs. Quinine, one name makes you scrape it off the surface of your decorative fountain and throw it in the trash. The other name makes you eat it for breakfast with your children. Language is the first layer of suppression, and it requires no conspiracy. It only requires that nobody corrects it. Here is what you do. Find duckweed. Any still body of fresh water that receives sunlight likely hosts it. Look for a continuous mat of tiny green discs floating on the surface. If you cannot find wild duckweed, aquarium supply stores sell it for $3 to $8. Online suppliers ship live duckweed cultures for under $10. You are purchasing a permanent protein source for the price of a single fast food meal. Fill any container with still water, a plastic storage tub, a kiddie pool, a 5-gallon bucket, an old bathtub, a ceramic pot without drainage holes, any vessel that holds at least 4 inches of water and receives direct sunlight for 4 or more hours daily. Rainwater is ideal. Tap water works if dechlorinated. Leave it sitting uncovered for 24 hours before adding duckweed. Place the duckweed on the surface. It will begin doubling immediately. Within 10 to 14 days, the surface will be fully covered. Begin harvesting. Scoop off half the surface layer with a fine mesh kitchen strainer or aquarium net. The remaining half will replace itself within 48 hours. Harvest every 2 to 3 days indefinitely. Rinse the harvested duckweed thoroughly in clean water. Eat it fresh. The flavor is mild, slightly green, faintly nutty, not unpleasant. Add it to salads as you would microgreens. Blend it into smoothies for a protein boost with no grit and no strong flavor. Stir it raw into soups just before serving. Fold it into omelets alongside eggs. Or spread it thinly on a clean baking sheet in direct sun for 1 to 2 days until completely dry. The dried duckweed crumbles into a fine green powder that is 35 to 45% protein by weight. Store in an airtight jar. Add the powder to bread dough, to pancake batter, to protein shakes, to pasta dough, to any recipe where invisible protein enrichment is desirable. 2 tablespoons of dried duckweed powder contain approximately 8 to 12 grams of complete protein. Complete. All 9 essential amino acids, plus iron, plus zinc, plus B12 in certain species. From a plant that grew on the surface of a bucket on your balcony in 48 hours, 1 container, 1 initial scoop of starter duckweed, permanent, continuous protein production. Year-round harvest in any climate above freezing. No land cleared, no animal harmed, no water wasted. The same water is reused continuously, topped off only to replace evaporation. No dollar spent after the initial setup day. You can feed a duckweed system with nothing but ambient nutrients and rainwater, or you can accelerate growth by adding a tablespoon of aquarium fertilizer per 10 gallons of water once per week. Or, and this is what makes the system extraordinary, you can feed it the water from rinsing rice, the water from boiling vegetables, the liquid drained from canned beans. Every nutrient-rich water you currently pour down the drain becomes duckweed food. Your kitchen waste feeds your protein source. The loop closes in your own home the same way it closed in NASA's spacecraft. 500 million people in Southeast Asia know exactly what this plant is. They eat it the way you eat lettuce. They scoop it and serve it. Their protein is free. Their water is cleaner for growing it. Their land is not cleared for it. Their climate is not warming because of it. Their children are not protein deficient. The plant is floating on the nearest pond to your home right now. It has been there since before you were born, producing complete protein, cleaning contaminated water, doubling every 48 hours, waiting for someone in the Western world to stop calling it pond scum and start calling it what 500 million people in Southeast Asia have called it for 1,000 years. Food. If this story opens something for you, subscribe and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to erase. The next story opens soon.